morning.
Good morning.
So glad you're here with us, Shane. Big message today. Big
Yes.
stuff we're talking about. I love that we had over 200 people signed up to check this out today.
Awesome.
I love that people are taking an interest in what you're doing. So I wanted to start out initially welcoming you. Thank you for taking the time. It's greatly appreciated. And if you would please, let's start out talking about DeliverFund, how you started, what it is.
Sure. So DeliverFund really got its roots in 2014. So that would have been our CEO, Nick McKinley, who at the time was working for the Central Intelligence Agency. He was over in a country that ends in Stan. We'll just leave it at that. And he witnessed firsthand multiple American dual citizens being brought over to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and were traded for sex. And he had the intel. That's not what their job was. That's not what they were over there doing. But in the course of their operations, they kept getting this human trafficking intel. And he was like, well, somebody has to have the ball on this. Somebody has to be proactively going out, even over in another country with American citizens. And he was turning this intel into the FBI, HSI, everybody that he could think of, and nobody would do anything. So what he did is he quit his job within the agency and he started DeliverFund just to bring awareness and have somebody in the United States that carries the ball, because there is not one law enforcement agency in the country that has the lead, right? We look at it as, and I always like to reference it to the war on drugs, right? We've been fighting the war on drugs for I don't know how many decades. I don't know how many billions of dollars. I don't know how many government agencies that are directly related just to fight a substance, if you will, that 90% of them are legal, but yet 100% of human trafficking is illegal. And we do not have one federal agency that has the lead. So that's where DeliverFund stepped in and we said, okay, we are going to provide law enforcement, local, state, and federal, with the resources, the methodology, and the cutting edge technology that they need to do their job at scale.
I love the process. And obviously we talked about this ahead of time, but let's talk about how that all happens and how that you work together and how that's happening, because I want people to know that it's happening.
Yes.
And how they can help feed that information into the process, which will then get to you.
Yes. So typically what we do, we only work with law enforcement. So we don't take any outside references from the public, anything like that. We are a one-to-one direct work with law enforcement. So what we do is we have DeliverFund has the largest proprietary software in existence on human trafficking. So what that means is I can have an officer in San Luis Obispo who's working a human trafficking case, because we know, and if you don't know, human trafficking is very migratory, right? Your bigger municipalities, New York, LA, Houston, those type, they will always have a constant presence of human trafficking because they have the population to sustain it. A lot of these ones are traveling across the country. They're on circuits. They're going to different events, going to different things. So how can we, and this was a question that we looked at DeliverFund, how can we have the most impact? Well, what we have in law enforcement, and that's my background, I come from a law enforcement background. We, as law enforcement, from the state, local, and federal level, never had the same software, if you will, to communicate with each other. So let me just break this down. So I could be doing a human trafficking case where I was an officer, right? And the next city over could be working the same people in the same case. And I would never know about it unless we ran into each other by circumstance. So we said, okay, we need to make a system that can connect officers across the country. And that's what we have done. So if an officer goes in, and we call that PATH, which is the platform and analysis for targeting of human traffickers. So if an officer goes into our proprietary system PATH and puts in a phone number, puts in a name, and it's populated in the system, it's going to populate and show that officer that, hey, investigator so-and-so from New York City, new NYPD, put this information in. Here's their contact. So now we can have officers collaborating and working cases together simultaneously from across the nation.
Is it just the nation? Sorry to cut you off there, but I was curious.
We do domestic and we do international as well. But when we focus on domestic, what we are wanting to do and what we are doing is just connecting law enforcement across the country. If we need to go international, we have the resources and the contacts to do that. But I'm just focusing primarily on domestic today.
Okay. So let's talk now about the problem itself.
Yes.
So I think for a lot of people, it's a problem that exists unless it's directly impacting you. Everyone's busy in their lives. The awareness is merely that it exists.
Yes.
Talk specifically about what human trafficking actually is.
Sure. And I'm glad you brought it up that way, Kate, in the way that you did it, because a lot of times when I speak to people that, have heard about human trafficking, don't know a lot about human trafficking, I reference it to domestic violence, right? We all know domestic violence exists.
Right.
But if it's not in our day-to-day life, if it's not affecting us day to day, it's out of sight, out of mind. That's the same parable for human trafficking. It's not affecting our kids, our family members. So we know it's something that exists, but we don't really put a whole lot of focus on it.
Right.
And like I tell people when I'm speaking, I can go online right now from my cell phone and I can order a girl, an escort, for about as much as I can buy a pizza and for about the same amount of time that it takes. That's how easy this is. This is nothing that I have to go onto the dark web, search around for. This is a front-facing web. I mean, I can go in and simple Google search and just Google what I'm looking for, and it's going to pop up in the area that I'm looking for, that geographical area, and then I can order a girl basically like I'm ordering a pizza. It's that easy. And I think people really have that disconnect that they don't think it can be that easy.
No, yeah.
It is that easy. I'm breaking it down to its simplest terms. And it's 80%, 90% of online sex trafficking is online, right? It's in the name. That's where human trafficking is taking place, because this is a commodity to them. This is a product. So these traffickers, to sell their product, they have to get it out to the masses, right? So they have to make it easily accessible for the consumer to buy that product. And that's what they're doing. And that's why, like I said, it permeates the front-facing web.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. And that's any city.
Pit in my chest.
Yep. Any city throughout the United States. Obviously, there's, you're going to have some of your smaller communities that is like the community that I live in has about roughly 10,000 people, right? So we have human trafficking. Is it here on a day-to-day basis? No, it's not. But it comes through. And that is every city throughout the United States, right? They have a circuit and they're coming through. And that's why we need to train law enforcement to be aware of not only what their circuit, where their travel is, but how can I be an effective, proactive law enforcement officer, knowing when they're coming into my jurisdiction and when they're going into the next jurisdiction. That's what we do at DeliverFund. We provide law enforcement that cutting edge software and technology to make that determination. And then we will train them, equip them, and advise them. And we do this all free. We don't charge law enforcement a thing. And that's where it's so beneficial for me to be able to go in there and provide these services to law enforcement at no cost, because we all know their budgets are strapped. They're trying to pull things together. And it's our donors. That's where our donors, people that are listening to this today, that's what enables me to do what I do and make the impact, is by our donors. Without our donors, we could not do the job.
There's one call to action, folks. One call to action. Check out the website. Be a donor if you can.
Yes.
So another call to action, possibly get this information to your law enforcement, right? Yep. So I'm sure you don't have all law enforcement on board.
No, we don't.
Yet. So Shane, are you traveling, you and your team traveling to different law enforcement teams to deliver this training?
Yes.
And get everybody up to speed?
Yes. So typically what we do, we have trainings. Our headquarters is in Dallas.
Okay.
So we will bring 2-3 times a year, we will bring law enforcement out to our headquarters in Dallas. And a quick story I want to tell on our headquarters in Dallas. So if you guys aren't familiar, and probably a lot of them aren't, but there was basically what I call the Costco for online sex ads, which was Backpage, backpage.com. That was kind of the online, warehouse for everything illicit sex ad related. We provided the DOJ with intel and continued to support them as they investigated Backpage. Ultimately, they took Backpage down. They indicted the owners of Backpage. This was a few years ago.
Okay.
So their corporate headquarters was in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
So when they got shut down and arrested, we moved our corporate headquarters into the same exact space they were using.
Oh, so, I love that.
Yeah, we say we're building our empire off the skulls of our enemy, and it's so fitting. It's so poetic that such a dark space for so long is now being used to shine light on this very, very dark subject.
Okay, I'm going bare bones on everything because I really, like I said, I don't think that people actually know how easy, how bad, how all of it. So tell me what human trafficking actually looks like.
Sure.
Like
And
they're grabbing your family off the street. They're like, how much is you hear about grooming? Like what?
Yeah, that is
how does that all happen?
Yeah, a lot of people when I talk to them, when they think human trafficking, they think the movie Taken, right? That permeated throughout, and that's what people think. And that is not what happened. That happens on a very small scale. I'm not saying, I can't say it doesn't happen within the United States. That is not the norm. Okay. The norm within the United States is these guys, they're predators. They are predators, and they are going to look for the vulnerable, right? Any young boy, young girl that is on the fringe of their family, is in foster care, has anything where that trafficker can infiltrate whether it's their social media account, however, whether it's face to face, and they are going to spend the time to recruit that juvenile, that child, right, to get them to do what they want to do. It's not like, hey, they pick them up off the street and then the next thing they do is they put them out for sex. They will take the time to groom them, as you said, very good work, right? They will promise them everything. They will, they make it look like their life is going to be absolutely perfect. I'm going to put you up as a model. You're going to be doing, a lot of them are, have a rapping. So you're going to be my videos, or you're going to be doing something like this. So they promise them all of these things. They isolate them from their families, over time. They draw that cord, and then ultimately what they do is they get them in, and there's a lot of different ways that they can basically trauma bond these girls. They have what they call seasoning. So seasoning is they will rape these girls multiple times a day before they even put them out, before they even advertise them. They will rape them multiple times a day, because what you're doing is you're taking that person and you're bringing them down to absolutely nothing. So they are not going to turn that girl or young boy loose or advertise them until they know for sure that individual is not going to cry out, not going to run away. They're so scared. And like I said, sometimes narcotics get in the mix. There's so many different variables that play with human trafficking and how these traffickers recruit and then maintain their girls. There really is no, this is how it happens, right? There's so many different ways and so many different nuances that they will do. They will buy them jewelry, take them, get their nails done, get their hair done. I mean, anything they can think of to exploit these vulnerable children, young boys and young girls. So
I know this is sickening to hear and to deal with, and I know that you're on the other side and able to, it's empowering to be able to be on your side. I love it. I love that you're sharing what this actually is, because when you don't know the real problem and you think this disillusioned idea, that movie was a fraction from what you said. That movie is a fraction of what is actually happening here, people.
Yes.
Pay attention.
And it a lot. And then a lot of people think human trafficking in the United States is illegal immigrants, right? Illegal immigrants that are being smuggled across and then sold. That happens. Yes, that does happen. That's a very small percentage of what happens within the United States. The majority of our victims within the United States are American citizens being trafficked by other American citizens. Our economy for illicit sex trafficking drives the market throughout the rest of the world. This is a homegrown problem. This is not something that it's happening in Thailand, it's happening overseas, and occasionally it happens here. It is our economy and our American dollar that drives this problem throughout the world. Full stop.
I think too, so many times people think just females.
Yeah.
It's not.
You know, this is young boys, this is young girls. You know, we're even getting into more and more with the transsexual community, seeing them as being more and more exploited and victims because of, you know, the different vulnerabilities that they are going through and dealing with. They now become a market for exploitation because of, you know, those different things that they're going through in their lives. And yeah, this is a homegrown problem. And without everyone on this call, a call to action before today, if they're here today and listening today, they could have said, well, I know it's a problem, but I don't know, you know, the amount of the problem. I don't know the situation. This is everyone's call to action today, because you do know this problem is happening within your community, wherever they're listening from. It's happening surrounding them. It's happening in every state throughout the nation. And it's time that we as a public and we as citizens step up and say, this is not something that I'm going to tolerate anymore. And this is something I'm not going to put up with. I always tell people, you need to get with your city council, your county commissioners, your mayors, your elected officials, and go to them and say, what is your budget line item you have for human trafficking? Because this has become such a hot topic that people just want to say, oh, I'm doing so much with human trafficking in the political spectrum, because people think, oh, well, they're tackling the human trafficking problem. Well, it takes more than words. So as a collective group, we need to hold our elected officials accountable for what they're giving resource wise to their law enforcement community and what they're doing to protect their community. So this is a budget line item that every person should know what that is within their community.
We talked about this a little bit ahead of today. The importance of, so yes, call to action. We want you to do what you can in your own community. We want you to go to the DeliverFund website, contribute any way that you can, but we want you to protect your own. Yes. Educate, learn about this so that you can protect your family, your kids in your neighborhood. I mean, so age range, this knows no bounds.
No bounds.
No age, no gender, no nothing, no ethnicity.
Yes, it covers all bases. And, you know, the average age, according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the average age of a trafficking victim is 15 years old.
Okay.
So just think about that for a minute. We're doing averages, the law of average. So if the average is 15,
yeah,
how many 12, 13, 14, 10-year-olds were involved in that as well? Right. I was just on an operation about a year ago. We were down in Tampa, Florida, and it was for WrestleMania. A lot of people don't remember what WrestleMania was, but being an old Hulk Hogan fan myself, it still strikes true. So we were down doing an operation in Tampa for WrestleMania, and we had a trafficker from Houston, Texas, that brought his girl. She was a minor child, all the way from Houston, Texas, and he trafficked her all the way to Tampa. We finally caught up with him in Tampa and got her. You know, law enforcement put handcuffs on him. He has been sentenced, found guilty, and he will be spending the next good portion of his life in federal confinement. But it just goes to show you the bounds and how far these individuals will go. You know, this was a child that he trafficked from Houston, Texas, across the United States, all the way to Florida, with no pause, for, her well-being or, anything she was going through. They look at these victims as pure commodities. That's all they are. Something to be sold.
Sometimes I just can't even, it's
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I'm once we make that date with her and bring her up to the room, and, law enforcement is talking to her, and then I'm sitting there talking to her on the bed, and it breaks my heart. Here is a child who is gone through more things in their young life than 99% of people on this earth will ever have to endure. And she still has the rest of her life to live, right? So we need to make sure that not only do we hold these traffickers accountable and make sure that our laws and our legislature are putting forward laws that are holding these individuals accountable, because it has been for up until recently, most states, if you look, their laws on human trafficking are very, very flimsy. So that is another fork in the road that we really need to push hard with our legislators and make sure the laws in our state are adequate for holding somebody like this accountable.
Tell me something. So this little girl or anyone after, what happens then? You reunite them with their family if you can. Like what's the,
so
I can't help but wonder now what for them?
And I'm kind of going to break this down a little bit. So DeliverFund, we are unique in this space, if you will. Our main focus is our methodology and our technology is we remove the human trafficker, because we believe without the human trafficker, you will not have human trafficking. Right. So we dedicate ourselves to identifying, attributing who that human trafficker is, provide that intel to law enforcement so they can arrest and put that human trafficker behind bars. Because if we don't, then this victim that he has today becomes another victim tomorrow, another one the next day, and they keep recruiting. So we need to first and foremost put that individual behind bars. Yes. And then we work with, we have multiple victims, if you will. We call them survivors and thrivers that work on the DeliverFund team. And so they are a wealth of knowledge. I'm not even going to try to touch the amount, what they can do, because they've lived this, right? They've lived this life. They've been in it. I can't even touch it. So we will talk to them, and then we will turn them over to victim services, and they provide them housing, clothing, food, whatever they need.
Sure.
In that short term, and then long term, if need be.
Okay, I want to circle back now to how we preventative measures that we can take. And I know that we talked about how technology is feeding this industry.
Yeah.
These cell phones, we're giving these kids cell phones, and we think that we're controlling the apps that they're on.
Yes.
But they have these covers for the apps, and they're in secret apps, and they figure out a way. They're smarter than us. They're finding ways around this, and those predators are finding their way to our children.
Yes.
Some way or another. So while we're going on unsuspecting, thinking we're giving a great Christmas gift, we're opening Pandora's box.
That's 100% true, Kate. And like we talked about a little bit leading into this, I said, most people at night, you turn your outside lights on, you lock your doors, you make sure your house is secure, and you go to bed. What are we doing for the cell phones, the tablets, those type of things that our children are taking to their bedroom with them, or having somewhere where they're in their own private location? That is the easiest and most effective way that these traffickers are going to get in and try to recruit. I mean, they're doing it from Roblox, whatever that gaming console is.
Yeah,
they're
the chat within these games.
The chat feature, yes. So I tell parents, when you download games for your kids, make sure that you know, obviously, what the game is, what that entails. Is there an active chat feature within that game? If there is, and you know that if it's not, you can't disable it, then you need to be, as a parent, reviewing and getting into that game and seeing who your child is talking to. And I can't recommend one site, but there are numerous different softwares out there that you can download on your phone, because I have this as a parent on my phone, and it tracks all those games, all those different things, and it will tell you, hey, if there is a curse word, if there is some suggestive language, if there is bullying, and it alerts you via a text message. So being a parent, you have to be proactive. We have to be proactive. We have to be, I consider myself a helicopter parent, and I will not apologize for that. There's too many things, too many ways that the bad guy can infiltrate our children, especially with technology today, that we need to be on the forefront of that as well. But that is their Achilles heel. Like I said, their Achilles heel is because they have to be online. They have to be online to sell their product at scale. Well, once they touch the internet, that's when we got them. They're leaving breadcrumbs all over the place, everywhere they go. And that's all I need. All I need is them to get on there, start advertising, and then they're putting breadcrumbs for me that I can put together to attribute and identify who that trafficker is. So it's a double-edged sword, yes, but we are working with our technology and advancing technology and getting that in the hands of law enforcement, that we are going to be able to tackle this at scale.
Okay. I love what you're doing. That makes me feel so much better that this now exists. I mean, the problem is monumental, but in my own home, doing what I can do, armed with information I now have, we can make better decisions.
That's it.
We can all make better decisions. Any other tips for parents, adults, just anyone, really? I mean, we all need to be aware of this. It's not just any group.
Yeah. And the hard part about when you're, because when we do human trafficking, most people think human trafficking, the illicit sex market, right? That's predominantly, and that's the space that I work. But human trafficking is labor trafficking as well. So that's another area that DeliverFund works, is we work in labor trafficking. We have a whole other division of DeliverFund that does nothing but labor trafficking. And that's a whole other aspect that needs to be looked at as well. But when it comes to the illicit sex market and, the predominance of that sex market infiltrating our children today, what I say is, when you're have appropriate age conversations with your children. Don't make this something that is taboo that you do not want to discuss with your kids.
Right.
You know what? Take them at the age that they are and have those age appropriate conversations, and continue those conversations as your children get older. Knowledge is power. And if they know what these individuals are trying to do when they're infiltrating their, whatever their game is, or they're trying to chat with them, if they have that knowledge of what these people may be doing, or what their outlook, or what they're trying to get them to do, then, equipping your children to say no, and being able to say no firmly, and why they're saying no, that's power in itself.
So, and we have a lengthy comment that came in, but I do want to touch on something here. Things with like daycares and aftercare programs, with schools and such. How can you vet things like that? How can you know what I mean? I think that was worth mentioning. I appreciate that comment coming in.
No, so were they asking, Kate, how do you vet like my child daycare individuals that are working there, or just so I know, so I answered the question correctly?
I'm going to see if it'll fit here. Well, I caught in listening to you, I caught a portion here. The demand is higher than the availability to get the people in these programs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes. I appreciate all of your comments coming in, and all of you tuning in and taking an active role in.
Yeah. And I would say, Catherine, reach out to me. I see that's LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. And, I kind of want to get into that question a little bit deeper, and just kind of see exactly where the pinch point is, or what you're exactly talking about. So if you could reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, and I'll definitely get you an answer for that question. But again, I mean, like I said, guys, it's the knowledge that this is happening. It's happening in every community throughout our country.
Yes.
And, we are not powerless. We have all the power in this. We can educate our children. We can, donate to DeliverFund. We can talk to our elected officials and see what they're doing about this problem. And if they're not doing enough, then we as citizens need to, we deserve better. We deserve more. That's your taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
Use. It's not their money. That's your taxpayer dollars. So, drive that where you want it to be driven to for the results that you deserve.
I love it. I love all the call to action right there.
Absolutely.
In one fell swoop. I love it. And please reach out to Shane.
Yeah.
Find him on LinkedIn. Check out DeliverFund. You've got the crawl on the bottom there with the website. Due diligence.
Yes.
We all need to do this. We all need to know, no matter our age, we've already learned, knows no bounds. None of this. Yeah.
That's it. And I just want to say thank you to you, Kate, as we kind of close here, in allowing me to come on. I mean, this was a fast 30 minutes. This is a topic that we could sit down and talk for 8 hours and still just scratch the surface, because there's so many intricacies. There's so many different things that happen and whatnot. But I greatly appreciate you letting me come on and just shining a little bit of light into this, this problem that is human trafficking. And, we need to take care of it.
I love it. I love what you're doing. I love that you were willing to give your time to help all of us learn more about it. Folks, I'm trying to do this once a month, just shining a light on an organization that I think our world needs to know more about, to just help keep people safe, or whatever the case may be. So if that's your organization, let's talk. Reach out on LinkedIn. But in the meantime, pass this along. Let other people know, and do get in touch with Shane, and do check out DeliverFund.org, and let's all do our part.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate it. This was a lot of fun and very educational. And just anytime I can get out and talk about the message and try to educate people on what is happening within their community surrounding this particular problem, I'm going to take that chance every time. So
we appreciate you very much.
Yes.
Very much. Keep up the great work, Shane.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
All right. Bye.